Hi, everyone. The title of my speech today is Road to Damascus, but I think it is Road from Damascus to Britain. But Road to Damascus is famous name. It means the road of peace. This road is available in Damascus under name Straight Street, where all people, all religion, Christian and Muslim, believe the peace will back again from the end of this road, where Jesus will back again from the sky and convert the life of all people around the world from troubles to peace. So I delighted to choose this title to be full of hope about the days coming on all peace coming and change the trouble to a nice life. In 2012, exactly in Christmas Day, we have got decision in our family to leave Damascus because the life reached to very dangerous situation and we can't continue under the war situation. But sadly, the war happened in Syria, where Damascus was the oldest ward and related to 12,000 years from now. So it is very famous and important city full of peaceful and beautiful life. It was peaceful city and still as it is. Every place you can find a mosque hugging a church and a church hugging mosque. In Syria, all people believe in others. They respect other opinion and other belief. So all people live together and help each others, and they were live in peaceful life, but stupid changed and damaged everything in Syria. This view show us Damascus before I leave. The day when I left my home, it was in July 2013 exactly, when I send all my family out of Syria, my wife, my children, and I put them in peaceful place and safe place. Then I started to leave. It was in July 2013. I stopped on the balcony of my home and I looked to sadness view of Damascus. You see these two pictures, I have got it from my balcony. It was very, very, very difficult decision to leave my home where I have a lot of stamps of job. I did it in Damascus in Syria since I was a child. When I was stopping on my balcony last minute when I leave, and I drank last cup of tea, and I looked to Damascus. Suddenly, I noticed the birds, how they're scared after every bomb, and they looks like fly all in all directions. Then I thought, what will happen to these birds? Because every time, every day, every morning, every moment we put some food to birds in on the edge. I thought, what will happen to this bird when I close all windows and doors? What will happen? So I entered to my kitchen and I noticed the valve how he dropping. So that time I have got an idea. Let me put a bowl and keep these drops of water helping the birds and keep the window open and allow them to enter to kitchen and drink and survive themselves. In this moment to talk emotionally with birds. Birds, what's your opinion? Let us exchange our homes. Every place there is a bird. Please, God, help me to reach Britain. Uh, uh, and also to reunion my family there in peace way and easiest way. So I opened the window to allow all birds who usually eat and drink and take daily food on the edge. And I opened all cupboard of kitchen. Usually in Syria, the people, their culture to storage a lot of food, like crush wheat, lentils, a lot of food stuff. So I opened all cupboard and I kept the bowl under the valve drops and directly went to a place I stored my laptop and some dress. I carried them and I started my journey, and I left my house since about 8 years. But the beautiful things, when I received a lot of photos about birds, how they nested in every place in my home, in the kitchen, in the edge, in balcony. It was about hundreds of birds. They found a peace place, as I found also a peace home in England since that time. Since that time, my home was the sanctuary of birds, as I had that now a sanctuary of a home, new home, to continue my new life. Till this moment, a lot of birds playing and nesting and living in my home, and I am very proud, very happy, very glad to see these photos and to hear about the bird. There's two photos. One of them I lost it. It was a nest of birds on my daughter's shoes, but I lost that photo. But still, I have this photo how on one shoes available in the home. Sadly, militias who fighting in still fighting in Syria. They haven't any minimum amount of love and peace and um, uh, uh, and respect of others' opinion. They damaged also a lot of places, heritage places are available in every place in Syria. They damaged the history of the human available in Syria. After 1 week of my arrival to Huddersfield in United Kingdom, I went to downtown and suddenly I found a railway station in Huddersfield. Really, when I looked to that building, directly I remembered railway station built by Britons between 1935, 1938. 3 years of Britain mandate only, and they built a lot of beautiful things in Syria. One of them, railway station contracted by German company. When I looked to railway station in Huddersfield, I found same architecture, same design exactly. There is a coffee shop on left side and parking on right side. And there is a square, fountain square in the front of the station, and all on right side, but named in Damascus Oriental Hotel. And also very wide roundabout and wide area in the front of railway station. When I entered to inside, I found same design exactly. Every time I remember Damascus, going to that place, and remember beautiful days I spent in that country. And also I renew uh, my decision to continue building in this new home. This is the type of old building in old Damascus, because Damascus divided in 2 chapters or two parts, old Damascus and new Damascus. Exactly when we going to York, we find in New York and old York. Old York surrounded with great wall and great gates. It's available same things around old, and there is 7 great gates still till now. When I walked first time to York, really I remembered I'm walking in old Damascus, but that time, first time I went to York and I take a walk around that old city, I shocked when I didn't find my home. I thought I'm walking in old Damascus, but it helped me a lot because I imagine myself I was walking in same old home I have. Old home or old type of the houses in Damascus, how they beautiful build and build with or by stones and green plants available outside and inside. The differences between houses in Britain and in Damascus, that a garden in Damascus, houses build inside houses, but in Britain build outside houses. And every house contain about 5 to 10 rooms, large rooms, because our culture always keep our family very strong and connected, and always helping our children to marriage in same house. And when a child decide to marriage, he make it like a bedroom, private bedroom to him, and other rooms share together with family, eating together, dining together, and spending most of time together till they have a big family. Then they move to other house, or if they decide to continue with original family, they can. As I mentioned, the title, it is Road to Damascus, because it is a famous street in Damascus named Straight Street. It started from, let me prepare the pointer. It started from this place. It is Eastern Gate through through a long a bazaar or a cultural bazaar, and roofed by during French occupation in Syria, I think. This roof is very old and built in beautiful way. And this street in Eastern Gate, and all people in Syria, Christian and Muslim, they believe Jesus will back again. Maybe some people believe he will fall again from the sky or be alive again, but I don't know which way he will back again. But all of us, we believe, convert to this life from trouble, war, bad things to peace life, and keep people living in peaceful way. The beautiful thing is my parent home, where I born, located in the middle of the street, on the street, and I was very happy to view the place where we located before my parent. It is in cross point between Christian quarter and Muslim quarter. It is on the center, on the cross of these two quarters. And this point, all people, all family mixed together. For example, our neighbor was Christian, and we deposit the key of our home with them when we go out, maybe for a couple of days. And they did same. And all families respect others' belief, respect other opinion. Like Britain exactly, and not allowed to any person to make differences or to talk that's Christian or that's Jewish or that Muslim. All of us are human, and every person, he has a freedom to believe as he want, with belief or without belief, and with respect others also. When I was in when it was 1974, I was a student in agriculture faculty of Damascus. And usually in that time, fourth year, we learned beekeeping. First time when I stopped with my inspector, I decided to be beekeeper. And in fact, I started after 3 months of that session with my friend. We were three friends. We shared in 2 hives only, because my parent was very poor, and my friend, he has a rich family, and he borrowed us some money, and we bought 2 hives, and 1974 exactly. Since that time till 2011, first year of war, my beekeeping project grown very quickly and reached to 500 colony, and I was a famous beekeeper. In addition, I continue my high education. I have got PhD in food science, and a combination between practice beekeeping, academic beekeeping, and food chemistry analysis. So I did a lot of research about honey, about bees, about environment affected with at bees production and bee honey quality control, and honey quality control. And I taught since 1989 at Faculty of Agriculture in beekeeping industries and beekeeping, food stuff, and food quality control. And after 2001, I think, I started to supervise a student to get master degree and PhD degree. And some students, they shared with European universities, and we progressed very high quality of research. And finally, I think 2010, we finished to put like a map, and I shared also in improvement Syrian Bees national project in Syria. But the beautiful thing, when I arrived to this country, I found amazing symmetry between Syrian bees and British black bees. Both of them were excellent in their environment. And also they produced a very good environment, but sadly both of them oppressed, because a lot of beekeepers in Syria and Britain helping like this native bees. In Syria, since 35 years, I mean 25 years before the war, we started in a project, national project for improving Syrian bees. But our progress damaged again when war started, because a lot of our lost the genetics or original bees we were dealing with. But I started since 2015 in this country to put like a foundation with my friends in Huddersfield to build again the genetics of British black bees. Now my apiary contain very famous and very valuable genetics related to British black bees. In Syria, a lot of people, a lot of beekeepers still and insist to do like a farming or old fashion of beekeeping, just to produce something named organic honey, organic wax, bee wax, and also to producing the quantity of their colony by have a lot of swarm from these cylinder and old-fashioned of hives. But in general, in Syria, we are using Langstroth hives and also using maybe 70 or 80% of beekeepers using Syrian bees, and rarely to find people imported Italian bees, because Italian bees best bees related or related to Syrian bees. So sometimes we use Corneolium, but the most of queens imported, but the problem is the government not accepted to import, but some people bringing these queens illegal way, because the project in Syria not accept any foreigner queens coming to inside. In this photo, you see how is Syrian bees very effective about defending about their homes. Wasp. We have in Syria very dangerous wasp called Vespa orientalis, or like date wasp. it is very dangerous. About it length about 2.5 centimeters till 3 centimeters, and width 1 centimeter, and very danger. So even he has big size, bees, Syrian bees, not allow him to enter to inside and kill him and throw him out. Syrian bees swarming a lot, so it is good to produce a lot of queens, because Syria is agriculture country, so we producing before a lot of crops and lot of flowers of crops and trees. So there is about 10 kinds of honey produced in Syria. Citrus, the original, I think, orange, lemon, and grapefruit. Then clover with eucalyptus, then aniseed, nigella. Then in August, cotton and sunflower. In August, euphorbia species, and in autumn, thorn, not thorn, sorry, heather bees, and also there is thorn and mountain weeds. Nearest honey available in Britain in same level of thorn and mountain weeds, and it is the expensive honey. If the price of Syrian honey was before the war $10 for 1 kilogram, but the mountain honey about $20 for 1 kilogram, and similar of Britain honey produced. Since about 1988, I started with my friends, my 5 friends in university. All of us were a lecturer, to submit to our university to establish and founding scientific Syrian bees, scientific beekeepers association. And this association to support scientific research and work with beekeepers. After 2 years, government, they established another Syrian beekeeper association just for farmers. Before the war, the total of beekeepers related to these 2 associations reached to 25,000 beekeepers. In Britain, according to BBKA, there are about 30,000 beekeepers. This on the internet, it was in 15 September 2016, their monthly meeting. In 1988, the date of founding Syrian Bees or Syrian Beekeeper Association, the quantity of hives available that time, about 140,000 colonies. Produced about 800 tons of honey. But before the war, you see, 2010, the quantity of hives increased about 4 times. But the beautiful thing is the quantity of honey produced 10 times. You see, the quantity of hives increased 4 times, but the quantity of honey produced 10 times compared with 1988. It means we improved the quality of beekeeping in Syria by improving the quality of Syrian bees and improving the way of beekeeping, and to do a lot of research about bees and bee products, and to improve the quality of beekeeping association. In every city in Syria, there is 3 offices related to bees. One of them, Office for Bees Improvement, Office for Bees Disease, and Bee Association for helping beekeepers. So all of them work together to improve beekeeping, use a lot of things related to bees, like beekeeping industries. The type of beekeeping in Syria, sorry, now the time finished, I think. Is it right? Maybe it remain 1 minute. Would you like to stop here?
No, Riad, I'd like to give you 5 minutes just to tell us what you've been doing in the UK. That would be brilliant.
Okay, let me continue going to talk about project. When I arrived to this country, I found myself, I want to do something in beekeeping because I was a refugee. I want to help refugees and help beekeeping. So I started to submit to Kirklees Council our a draft about buzz project, just to helping refugees, to helping bees in our environment, and to make a community working together, refugees, job seekers, and asylum seekers working together and producing something new, and to build useful relationship between these workers, and also to change the life and to helping refugees for quick integration, and to improve the skills of refugees, and also help them to establish beekeeping project as they can. In bus project during our through steering group. We are all of us managing our project in like some people came from a church, some people came from council, some others came from bee association, and all of us doing our job through Sanctuary Kirklees. Sanctuary Kirklees is a special association and charity refugees and take care for them. We started our job in Buzz project. We have got about £5,000 from police commissioner, and we are very glad to convert money came from crimes to project doing help and love and peace and cooperative between people. The main aim of Buzz project just to doing something from nothing, or to deal with the expenses of like to invest the swarms available around us, and also to using recycled materials to build new hives, reducing the cost to hive till about £25, and also to invest the flowers available our environment in thousands of hectares every place we find, and flowers available in wide area. And if we didn't invest their nectar, they will drain by rain. So our project mainly aims to producing and investing everything around our environment to producing honey and helping others. Now, before lockdown, we started in industries beekeeping to producing some kinds of cream, shampoo, candles, and something like that, and supplement like pure propolis and pure royal jelly. I hope after lockdown to continue this industry project and meet again after time to talk about our progress in next term. Thank you very much for your listening, and I am very sorry for take about 3 minutes more in my presentation.
Riad, thank you very much indeed. I wonder if you can stop screen sharing, then we can see everybody's lovely face. But thank you very much indeed. I've already picked up a few questions, and they seem to be on a similar theme. I think, you know, one of the questions is very much about the beekeeping that you did in Syria, and I am assuming it was mainly for honey. Was that the importance of your beekeeping, or was it for conservation work at the same time?
I didn't hear, please. The internet a little weak sign.
So your beekeeping, is the purpose of your beekeeping to make honey, or is part of what you're doing in Syria to restore the bees and look after the bees?
No, in Syria we have number one, nobody using bees in like hobby, and we are producing honey, producing royal jelly, pollen. We have a lot of factories producing beeswax foundation, cream, medication, and taking care for bees. You see, two different purposes and different aims. Yeah.
Okay, and I think this might be a question for Catherine, who's going to follow you. So Catherine, listen to this one, because this might be you in the end. Somebody was saying we've been trying to conserve and improve habitats for natural pollinators in our gardens, especially wild bumblebees. So if we set up a honeybee hive, will that have a negative impact on the wild honeybees?
No. All of them working in one team.
Excellent.
Wild bees, because bees, our teacher, all of them, they are teaching us how we can dealing with our environment and improving our life. So bumblebees cooperate with honeybees, cooperate with many kinds of bees and other pollinators, and all of us working together to improve our life. So they are our teacher.
Excellent. Yeah. There is one question there that I saw, which was about the future of bees in the UK. I mean, we all hear the news that we've lost so many bees, and that, you know, we have a third of the bees that we used to have in the past. So what do you see are the main pressures on the bees, and how can we preserve our bee populations here in the UK?
In general, if I compare the quantity of bees defined in UK and other country, we are here in the top, because the weather helping very much, and flowers helping very much. And this is the story of bees. We lose a lot of colonies, and next year we will recover again. It is, bees is like is a very important insect. They recover in a strange way, and we call it in Middle East, it is a holy insect. So it is every beekeeper lose a lot of bees, but next year recover again and more. So don't worry at all. If we helping beekeepers and take care for pesticide and take care for local bees, British black bees, please. This is my advice. British black bees. If you want to improve beekeeping in UK, follow to helping native bees, British black bees only, not buckfast, not craniolian, not others. Only local bees. If you follow this advice only, you will get very important and developed beekeeping in this country. And we are doing same target, same aims in BUZZ project and my private project here in Huddersfield.
Thank you, Riad. I mean, you talk about symmetry. I loved your talk about symmetry between architecture, but also symmetry between bees. So stay with us, and if anybody's got any more questions, just put them there in the chat, or at the end we can shout them out. But at this point, can I bring you in, Catherine? Because Catherine is running the Beeline project for Yorkshire Dales Millennium Trust. And for some people who might have questions about bees and wild bees, then Catherine might be somebody who can tell you a little bit about that. So we maybe have a dialogue between the two of you. But Catherine, over to you.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Can you all see that? So as Judy said, I run our Bee Together project at Yorkshire Dales Millennium Trust. And we've all heard lots about honeybees already this evening, but I wanted to take this opportunity to tell you a little bit about the other kinds of bees we get in the UK, and specifically about bumblebees. So in the UK, we have three main groups of bees. We have the honeybee, as Ryad has told us lots about. We then have over 250 other kinds of bee, and the majority of those are solitary bees, like this one in the middle here, and they actually look very, very different from one another. There's all sorts of different colours and different shapes and sizes. This is just one example. And they're by far the most common bee in the UK after the honeybee. And many of them actually are mining bees. So they live underground, they burrow underground into sand or soil to lay their eggs. And some of them burrow into cavities, into little holes to lay their eggs. And then finally, the last kind of bee we have is bumblebees, which are the big fuzzy ones that you see flying around in your garden. And that's what I'm going to mostly focus on this evening. So around the world, there's about 250 species of bumblebee, but in the UK we have 24. We used to have quite a lot more species of bumblebee, but sadly quite a lot of them have gone extinct. We had a reintroduction of one, so for a few years we had 25 species because we reintroduced the short-haired bumblebee in Kent. But sadly, that reintroduction has not been successful, so we're back down to 24 species again. Many of them are only found in the south of England, so sadly we don't get them here in the Yorkshire Dales. And there's also one very rare bee called the Great Yellow Bumblebee. It's the biggest bumblebee, and that's only found way up in the Highlands of Scotland and on the islands up there in the Macaire habitat. They used to be spread across the whole of the UK, but sadly they're no longer. So bumblebees have two main aims in life. They want to eat and they want to nest. And when they're eating pollen and nectar from plants, just like honeybees. So the nectar is very, very sweet, a very sugary sweet solution. And the pollen they take to feed to their young. And different bees feed on different flowers because their tongues are different lengths. Some have very, very long tongues, almost the same length as their bodies, and some have much, much shorter tongues. And on average, they'll fly between about 0.5 kilometre and 2 kilometres from their nest to find food. So when a bumblebee looks at the world, it looks quite different to what we can see. So we when we look at flowers, like a dandelion, we see it as yellow. When a bumblebee looks at a dandelion, it actually sees it as white with a big red target in the middle. And that helps the bumblebees find the nectar and the pollen very, very quickly, because they know that the red in the middle of the flower signifies that's where their food is. So as well as eating, bumblebees need to find somewhere to nest. They're social insects, so they live in a nest with other bumblebees. But whereas honeybees might have thousands and thousands of bees in a hive, there's usually only up to about 400 bumblebees in a nest. So there's much, much fewer bumblebees in a nest than honeybees. And they'll look for somewhere warm and insulated. Some of them will nest underground. You sometimes find them in the walls in your house or in your shed. And in the Yorkshire Dales, they often nest in all the cracks and the crevices in dry stone walls. You don't often know that a bumblebee nest is where it is because there's no evidence. You'll often just see big bumblebees going in and out of the nest, and that's the only clue you get to see that there is bumblebees in there. So just like honeybees, bumblebees lay their eggs and they hatch out into larvae, which look almost like a little maggot. And they hatch them into something called a brood cell, which is like a little cup. And it's made of wax. And the larvae live in there and they can't feed themselves. They can't go anywhere. They can't do very much. They just sit and wait to be fed. I'm going to go on to this slide because it explains it a bit better. So this is the life cycle of a bumblebee. It's quite similar to a honeybee, so I'm sure Ryad will be familiar with it, but I will go through it for the rest of us. So in the springtime, there's only queen bumblebees around, and they've been hibernating all winter, and they're full of eggs. They're ready to lay their eggs, and the queens are really, really big. And you'll see them flying around in the spring, low down near the ground, and they're looking for somewhere to nest. They might find a dry stone wall, they might find a gap under a house, they might find an old mouse hole perhaps, and the queen will fly into there and lay her eggs. And the eggs will hatch, and there'll be these little maggoty things, the larvae, and they want to eat the pollen. So the queen has to go and visit flowers and bring back pollen for the larvae to eat. And eventually those larvae will hatch into worker bees. And all the worker bees are female, they're all girls. And their job is to go out to flowers and bring back food to the nest, because the queen bee will keep laying eggs and those eggs will hatch and they need food. So the workers have to go out and get the food and bring it back. So they'll go to flowers and they'll bring back pollen to feed to the babies. And the queen will keep doing this. She'll keep laying more and more eggs and they'll keep hatching, and they're always girls. All summer long, she lays eggs that hatch as girls. And they're all the workers. They work very, very hard going to the flowers and bringing food back for their sisters. And eventually, at the end of the summer, the queen will lay an egg that won't become a worker. It becomes a new queen. And she also lays some eggs that become males, boys. And then the queen, unfortunately, dies. She's done her job. She's worked hard all summer and she dies. The new queen and the males will leave the nest and they will look for some mate. And then once they've mated, the males die and the new queen will go to hibernate over winter. And she'll go into a hole under the ground usually and wait for the winter to be gone. And then in the springtime, she will wake up and the whole cycle will start again. So if we understand that the queen bee spends her early part of summer, finding food for her children. And then all the worker bees are busy finding food for their sisters and their siblings in the nest. We can understand that if there isn't very much food, then it makes it very, very difficult for bumblebees to survive. So there are some threats that stop bumblebees from easily being able to survive. The first one is predation. So other animals might come and eat the bumblebees. There are birds called bee eaters that eat bumblebees, and something like a badger might come and dig up the nest and eat all of the eggs and all of the baby bees that are inside. Other bees might come and kill the queen and eat her eggs or destroy her nest as well. There's also diseases that affect bumblebees. They're not the same as diseases that affect honeybees. There are some that affect both honeybees and bumblebees, but there are also diseases that only affect one or the other. The biggest impact, though, particularly in the Yorkshire Dales, is probably a loss of bees' habitats. So we know now that bees like to eat the pollen and the nectar from flowers. But in the Yorkshire Dales in particular, there's lots of farms where there's lots of grass and there might be some woodland and there's lots of dry stone walls, but there's not very many flowers. So we actually encourage farmers in the Yorkshire Dales to create hay meadows. And if we went back 100 years, there would be lots and lots of hay meadows in the Yorkshire Dales. But because farming has changed, there aren't as many anymore. So we work with farmers to help them re-establish their hay meadows. So by sowing seed and by planting lots and lots of flowers, we create habitat for the bees so there's more food for them. There's also a threat from pesticides to bumblebees. So pesticides are used by gardeners, they're used by farmers, they're used by councils in the park, and they're used to kill insects because there's lots of insects that we don't really want on our plants or in our parks or in our gardens. But unfortunately, these pesticides, these chemicals affect bees as well, and they actually affect the way the bee's brain works. So they can't navigate properly, they can't find their nests, they can't find their food. So it makes it very, very difficult for them to survive. And finally, climate change. As the temperature changes in this country, sometimes it's getting warmer, other times it feels like it's getting colder. It affects when the flowers come into bloom. And if we don't have lots and lots of flowers in bloom at the same time and all through the summer, the bees find it hard to find enough to eat. So this is where the Bee Together project comes in. We are trying to protect bumblebees and other wild bees by bringing communities together to take action for pollinators, so to do something to help bees. So the first thing we're doing is creating habitats for bees. This might be working with farmers, like I said, to help them establish hay meadows, or these photographs are actually from Airedale Hospital near Keighley, where we've created a community meadow. These are members of staff from the hospital. And at the moment, it doesn't look like much like a meadow. It's very muddy, as you can see in the pictures. And that's because we've stripped off all of the grass. And here we're sowing seeds and we're planting so that next summer, lots and lots of wildflowers will come up instead of the grass and provide lots and lots of food for the bees. We also work in places where there already is meadows and we teach people how to look after them. So this is in the park in Skipton, where there's a meadow that's about 1 year old. And here we are last summer cutting the meadow and then raking up the grass. If you don't cut the grass and rake it up, the flowers that you've planted find it very, very hard to survive because the grass grows very, very tall and thick and the wildflowers can't compete with that. So each summer, around the middle of July, we cut the grass and we rake it all up. So as well as creating places for bees to live, I like to educate people about bees like I'm doing this evening, hopefully. So that involves going into schools, and we learn all about different wild bees. This is Steeton Primary School. And what we often talk about is all the different kinds of food that we wouldn't have if we didn't have bees. So lots and lots of food grows from plants that are pollinated by bees, things, so food that we wouldn't have if we didn't have bees. I also teach people how to identify bumblebees. So we run courses in the summer where we teach people how to catch bumblebees and how to tell the difference between them. We will be running some of those later this summer, probably online this year rather than in person. But I'm sure Judy can pass on my email address to anyone that's interested in learning how to identify some bumblebees. And we also teach people techniques for looking after bumblebee habitat. So here we've got some people learning all about scything. And this is actually at Neil's farm, who's at the meeting this evening. So scything, which is the tool here that we're using, is a very traditional way of cutting the grass, basically. And not many people know how to do it anymore. So we had someone come in to teach us how. And scything's a really, really great way to manage habitat for bees, because you can do it in a big field, you can do it in a little garden, or if you have an allotment, you can get into lots of tight spaces where you can't get with a big tractor or a lawnmower. It's also nice and quiet. You don't have to put your ear defenders on and start up a big noisy lawnmower. You can just peacefully swing your scythe back and forth. So it's a really good way to learn to look after habitats for bees. So finally, I hope this answers the question that a few people have been asking of what can we do to make sure we're protecting not just honeybees, but our wild bee species as well. The best thing you can possibly do is to plant and grow as many different kinds of flower as you can. Remember I said that bumblebees have different length tongues. That means that some of them can only feed off very, very deep, big flowers. Some of them feed on very, very small flowers. So it's really important we grow as many different kinds of flowers as possible. So that might be in your garden. If you don't have a garden, if you have a window box, or even a plant pot with something on your doorstep, or if you work at a park or you have an allotment, there's loads of different places and ways you can grow flowers. So I would really encourage, if you want to do something to help bees, grow some flowers. You can also try and provide nesting sites for them. We tend to want to be really, really tidy in our gardens and in our parks, and tidy everything up and have it all neat. And that's nice for us, but it's less good for bees. If you leave a pile of compost or a broken down wall, anywhere with nooks and crannies and holes that the bees can go into to nest, that'll do bumblebees a really big favour. It'll be great for them to go in and hide, either in the winter where they can hibernate, or to go into to nest. I'd encourage you to be organic as much as you can. Try not to use chemicals and pesticides in your garden. I'd encourage you to use your lawnmower a little bit less if you do have a garden. Try and leave a strip maybe unmown and see what wildflowers come up in there. You never know. Often people get lots of daisies and buttercups without knowing that they're even in there. You can join an allotment if you don't have a garden, especially in urban spaces, so in cities and towns. Allotments are really, really important for bees because they're often the only places in the town that has lots and lots of flowers. So if you can join a community allotment or take on your own one, that's a really, really great thing you can do for bees. I'd encourage you to write to your local council. If you see your local council out spraying pesticides and chemicals in the parks, or if you'd like to encourage your council or your local MP to make sure there are more flowers being grown in your local area, you can write them a letter or send them an email and ask them to do that. And there's also national surveys you can get involved in. I'd encourage you all to have a look at Bumblebee Conservation Trust, have a really great national survey that you can take part in. If you want to do something where you're actually going out to record bumblebees. So that's just a really, really brief overview of bumblebees and what the Bee Together project does. But I'm happy to take any questions if we've got time, Julie.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Catherine. Can you stop screen sharing for me?
Yes.
And then we can see people and see what they want. So excellent. Brilliant. Thank you very much indeed. So we've had two very different talks by different people on bees. Are there any questions for anybody? I think we've asked a few of the questions which Ryad was given. Are there any questions for Catherine? While you're thinking about a question, I wonder if I could ask Neil, who's on this call as well. He's a farmer in the Yorkshire Dales, in Malham itself, and he's doing lots of work to restore hay meadows on his farm. So Neil, could you just say a little word while people are thinking about a possible question?
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Judy. Yeah, brilliant to see Ryad and Catherine and talking about beekeeping from all around the world. And one of the sad statistics that Catherine mentioned was the populations of bees, and that goes alongside changes in farming over the last sort of 50 years. Really, there's been a massive change. And one of the saddest statistics for us living and farming in the Yorkshire Dales is that hay meadows have decreased nationally in Britain by about 97%. And that's obviously going to have a massive impact on not just bee populations, but wildlife populations in general. And that's been quite a consistent theme within farming generally. So in the last probably 10 years, we've tried to farm much more in tune with nature, much more in tune with natural processes. And part of that has been the management of hay meadows and the reinstatement of hay meadows as much as we possibly can across the farm. And that really, it requires two things. One, it's the management of the hay meadow, particularly through the summer. And then in some instances, we've also added botanical species to the meadow. So we get a greater diversity of plants and flowers on the meadows as they're growing. And just in very simple terms, we take stock out of the meadows in around about early May, and we then don't push it and we don't graze it until we get to at least the middle of July, but quite often it's later than that. And that allows all the plants and the grasses to grow, and it gives all the pollinators chance to get into the flowers and do all the work that they do throughout the summer. So it just creates habitat basically, and it does create those habitats and those opportunities for pollinators, but also you've got all your ground nesting birds which are nesting in the meadows. You've got all sorts of different creatures, that voles, etc., that are living in there as well. So the hay meadows, we know, are absolutely amazing habitats, and as Catherine has mentioned, we've tried to get as many of those hay meadows both restored and enhanced on the farm as we possibly can. And that's just an ongoing thing. And, it's just an ongoing project. We've had some hay meadows that have been established for 10 years and some that have only been established for a couple of years. So we just keep working on that all the time. And it's all about creating habitats for those pollinators.
Thank you, Neil. Brilliant. I wonder if I could set a challenge for you all. Maybe, Ryad, your project and your participants there might like to visit the Yorkshire Dales and go and visit Neil and his hay meadows one day, and maybe Neil on one time could like to go and visit your project in Huddersfield. This is what this is all about, is building linkings.
Most welcome to you. Yeah,
thank you, that would be good. I set that challenge for you all. Thank you all very much. Yeah, very much for turning up. I haven't seen any really distinct questions at the moment. We are slightly over the time, so I don't want to keep you much longer. But I'd just like to say a massive, massive thank you to Ryad. I mean, the passion. Somebody said, thank you very much for your fascinating talk, Ryad. Thoroughly enjoyed and informative. Loved hearing about and seeing pictures of Damascus. You must miss your homeland. And for me, that's what came over, that passion for Syria, for Damascus, for your bees, for your birds on your balcony. That absolutely shines through. But all credit to you and your family for picking up and making a life here in the UK. And we're very, very grateful to you for developing your project to help other people who are facing challenging times. So thank you, Ryad, for your passion and for sharing with us. Thank you, Catherine. I learnt an awful lot there. And thank you, Neil, for your input as well. But yeah, thank you all very much for turning up. Just to say that our next talk is next week, and you might have seen it mentioned on the television, not the talk, but the individual that's involved. The next talk next week is by Stuart Gledhill and Leanne Simmons. They are going to be talking about wild swimming. And Stuart Gledhill has actually swum every single day during the month of January to raise money for Crisis. He and his friends have raised £30,000 for Crisis, and he and his friend Leanne is going to be talking. Leanne's going to be majoring on the fact that she's a black woman wild swimming. And so that's going to be a very interesting from her perspective, and also the well-being aspect of wild swimming. But you might like to just take your and let's give Ryad and Catherine a big round of applause, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
And to all of you, you can see the details of the next talk, which is in the chat, but to all of you, a very good evening, and thank you all very much for coming. Good night.
Thank you.